What's good, YouTube? Preston here. Super excited to hop into the video and show you guys how to make the Spotify homepage. But first, a few things. The drink of the day is one of my favorites, Lagunitas, something easy. I'm going to be doing a drink of the day in each video. Hopefully I can get some sponsors eventually. And also, on a side note, this is one of my first videos, tutorials I made. And with that being said, I had a few issues. So if the spacing's a little bit off, as well as the audio's not perfect, I apologize. Leave a comment down in the description if you have any recommendations or anything you hope I would improve upon for the next video. So let's hop on the computer and let's get into it. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, so we're on the computer now. I first wanted to start off by showing you guys the completed project. This is what it's going to look like. You're going to scroll through, be able to scroll through, look at all the different albums, and also if it's an artist, it's going to be able to be a circle. So you go through here, you can be able to scroll through, and you can see all the albums. Alright, now let's hop into Xcode, and I'm going to show you guys how to code this up. Okay guys, so we're going to start by opening a fresh instance of Xcode. You want to click over here, single view app. Next, let's title it Spotify tutorial. And then we want to use Swift as a language and the user interface storyboards. Then click next. You want to save it in wherever you need to put it. I did the home folder. And now we're in here. Now that we're in the main.storyboard, I like to start by laying out all my UI kit elements on the storyboard and then going in and creating classes for them as well as reuse identifiers. So let's go over here, and there's two ways you can do it. You can either do Control-Shift-L, which will bring up the object menu, or you can click the plus icon in the top right corner. And let's drag a table view in here. I want to set up at the top corner here and drag down here. Now we want to set the constraints for it so it stays in place. Set them all to 0 here. Click Add 4 Constraints. Now I want to go over here where it says Prototype Cells, and we want to set it to 1 right here. So now we can go into the structure in here and we can drag down to give ourselves some more space. Now that we have our prototype cell set up, we want to go in here, Command-Shift-L again, and this time we're going to look for the collection view. We're going to drag it in here. So how this is kind of going to work is it's a table view cell with a nested collection view cell within it, which are going to be the album covers and so forth, and we're going to populate it. So we want to drag this in here, and then we're going to set constraints. So you don't want the constraint to margins for this, so it fills up the whole table view cell. And like the table view cell, we're going to set everything to 0. Everything to 0 right here. Cool. Just like that. Now we're going to actually click on the table view. Within it, there's a collection view cell. We're going to click on that, and we're going to come in here, and we're going to set it to, drag here. We want to set it to, we're going to have to drag down this table view cell a little bit more because we want to set this collection view cell, the width to 200 and the height to 250, like that. Now we are going to go into our prototype cell. First, actually, let's give this table view cell a little bit more room. And we're going to click on our collection view prototype cell in here. And we are going to drag a UI view into it, like this, right here. And you want to make sure that it fits within the cell so you can set the constraints. It won't set the constraints if part of the object you're dragging into it is without the borders of what you're trying to set the constraints to. So we want to set it all to 0 again. So it's going to take up the whole cell. Set the 4 constraints right there. And then now we can start adding our elements in. So there's going to be UI image right here. We're going to set that one in here like that. And the image in Spotify, it's a square, so we're going to do 200 by 200 here. And then we are going to have an artist title label or album title label, and then as well as like a sub label too in there. So let's drag one label in right there, and then you can do Command D to duplicate it, and then drag another one right under it right there. So now that we have all our elements that we need for each cell, we can click on, let's start by clicking on the image, then the first label and the second label while holding shift so they're all selected. And now come down to the bottom here and click, which is an embed in stack view. So now they're all embedded in a stack view. So you can drag the stack view over here, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky just because we have to set a bunch of constraints for it. So having the stack view now selected, come in here, and we're going to set some constraints for it. Set the top to 0, side to 0, other side to 0, and then bottom to 0. I'm going to add those 4 constraints in there, so it's like that. And now let's open up the stack view, and we're going to need to add constraints for each element within the stack view. So here for the label, we are going to click this constraint. We want this to be 0, so it's going from side to side. And then that one we're going to do 5 because we want a tiny bit of spacing to the next label. And then the top, let's do 5 too. So let's add those 4 constraints. And it's giving me issues because there's conflicting constraints going on. Okay, there we go. And then this one also saying there's conflicting constraints with that one. That constraint. Okay, cool. So then let's do the same for the bottom one. Set that one to 0. 0. Let's add those 2 constraints here. And then we want our labels to be centered. So we're going to come in to the side panel, the right side panel, and click center right there. Same thing with the other one. Label. And then let's just give them titles, honestly. We'll call this album title, and then we can call this subtitle right there. So now that we got those, our collection view cell populated, we can now start worrying about the files associated with them, as well as setting reuse identifiers for actually creating multiple instances of each one. So come over here, right click, new file, Cocoa Touch class, and this one is going to be UI collection view cell. We can just call this collection cell. Next, create. Going to create that one, and then we're also going to need a table view cell class. So Cocoa Touch class here, and this one is going to be a class of, it's a UI table view cell class right there, and we can just call this one table cell right here. Enter. Create. Cool. So now that we have these 2 classes created, one for the collection view cell, which is going to have the album and everything, and then the table view cells, which is going to be the different rows containing all the albums. We should go back into the main.storyboard here, over here, and let's click Xcode is being a little bit buggy. Click the table view cell here, and we want to create an identifier here for it. And I like to name them the same as my classes. It makes it very simple. So table cell right here, click enter. Make sure you click enter, and then come into the class here, and then select table cell. So then now we want to go down here into the collection view cell, and we want to do the same thing. Collection cell is the class, and then the identifier we're also going to use collection cell. Now click enter. Now that we have our classes set up as well as our reuse identifiers, we're going to need to link our table view to our view controller, which is like the main file for this view controller. So let's come click on this and then click on here, and we want the assistant editor to come up, and we want to click on this table view. I want to click right there. We want to drag, and we'll just call this table view right here. And then also what we need to do, which is kind of tricky if you don't know what you're doing, is you need to drag here and to the view controller icon, click here and say data source as well as delegate. Make sure you do that. And then you need to come in here and into your view controller class file and do UI table view data source, click enter, and UI table view delegate. So there you go. And then now we're going to get an error, but we want that error. So we're going to need to implement these two protocol sub-functions here. So they usually put them at top, but I kind of like them to be under my view did load. So let's come in here and let's type mark. I call them helper functions right here, and then we're going to paste them right here. So these are going to be the number of rows that you see in your Spotify homepage, the number of rows, and then as well as for each one of the table view cells, what's it going to contain. Now that we got these functions implemented, let's do return, say 4, and then now we're going to have to create each table view. So each table view cell. So we're going to do let cell equal table view right here, which is referencing the table view right here, and we do table view dot dequeue reusable cell with identifier string. So remember, we over here come over to your main.storyboard, and you should check what the table view cell we named it right here, table cell. I usually copy and paste just so there's no errors, because if it's case sensitive here, and then index path like that. And then now we need to say as, and we need to reference the class we created for it, which is the table cell right here. As table cell, return cell, just like that. And there's one more function we want to add, is the table view here, height for row at here. We want to return 300 like that. That's all we're going to need for the view controller for now. So now let's hop back into the main.storyboard, and let's link up our collection view cell, all the elements into the collection view cell, and as well as set up the table view cell. So let's start off by having our collection view selected, clicking the plus right here. I usually click over here. And then now we want to go in here and go to the table view cell. So now select your collection view here. You can either select it in the actual main.storyboard editor or the collection view right here on the side. You want to drag this over, and I'm going to call it collection view, like that. And then now up here we're going to need a few different types of protocols to conform to. The first one being the UI collection view delegate, and the second being the UI collection view data source. So it's going to have a similar error. It's going to show up. It's going to ask us to add those two protocols. So let's copy that right there. Let's cut it. And then below here, let's add our mark. Like I said, I usually mark dash helper functions. And then let's paste that in there. And just for now, we can just say return 4. And then here we're going to do pretty similar to the other one. Let's cell equal collection view dot DQ reusable cell with identifier. And then similar to this one, you go in here and you click on the collection view cell right here, and you can see the identifier right there. So we're going to copy that, come in here, paste that, and then for index path, and then as a collection cell right here, that class we made. And then we need to return that cell. There's one more thing which is actually really important you need to do. You need to go into this awake from nib function right here. You can delete this comment right there, and you're going to need to say collection view dot delegates equals self, and then collection view dot data source equals self. Now that we have that set up, we can go back into the main.storyboard over here, and then come to the collection view cell. And now we need to link up our elements in there. So start by dragging our image. First, we can just call this image, that, and then our artist label, or album title actually. And then our subtitle for the album or the artist. Subtitle, like that. Now that we have those dragged in, we're going to need to create the awake from nib function. So you're going to want to type override awake from nib like that, and then in the code you're going to want to type super dot awake from nib like that. So now that's all we need pretty much for that class for the time being. We're actually now going to create our model, which is where we're going to create an instance of the image, the album or artist, as well as the subtitle. And if they're an artist, we're going to want to have their image be a circle, and if it's an album, we want it to be a square. So let's go right click here, click create new file. We're going to want this to just be a regular Swift file because it's just going to be a class, and we can call this model, for example. Here, import foundation. We're going to want to change this to import UI kit right here, and it can be class right here. So we don't need it's not inheriting from anything, and then we can call it class, it's going to be model, and the code is going to be var image, image view, which is going to be of type string, and it's going to be an optional, then var album title, which is going to be of type string again, var subtitle is also going to be of type string, and then our final is going to be var, we can call that is artist, and that is going to be of type bool. So now we're also going to need initializer within this. So for our initializer, let's go back in here like this, keep init like that, then we can write image view, which is going to be string again, comma, album title of type string, and finally is artist type bool, like that. So then now we want to put those curly brackets in. We're going to do self dot image view equals image view, and self dot album title equals album title, then self dot subtitle equals subtitle. And you need to say self before, remember you need to say self before these, or else there'll be issues or errors. Okay. So now that we have this set up, this is going to be the class we're going to use to populate each one of our collection view cells with the album title, or the artist picture, and the artist name, and the subtitle. So now you're going to need to go into the link down in the description and grab all the images we're going to populate. We're going to start dragging our images. Okay guys, so I just dragged all my different image assets into the assets folder here. Here you go, here's a bunch of album covers. So there's a few things we need to go back into the main.storyboard and do. The first being, we want to go into our collection view here and set the background to black, because if you look in the Spotify app, or the one I created, it's all black. As well as the view, we want the view, the background also be black color. And then the table view can also be black. Some background. So now we're going to need to go back into the collection view cell here, and we are going to need to select this image, and we need to set the height and width properties of it. So we want the width to be 200 and the height to be 200. Two constraints right there. And now we can just add one of the images. I'm going to add a kill like that. And let's build and run. Sorry, it's taking a sec to launch. Sometimes it can take up to 30 seconds. So here we go. You can see them. As you can see right now, they're scrolling up and down like that within each one. So the way we're going to fix that is we're going to go back in here. As you can see right here, we fix that by going back into here. You click on the collection view here, and you go into scroll direction, and you want to click horizontal. So now if we build and run, a shortcut is Command R on the keyboard. If you do that, that's the shortcut. See, look, now we have this one album cover, the album title, and the subtitle here. So if we look at our original, we're going to need these to be black with white text, and the second one's actually like gray or light gray text. So let's go and implement that right now. Oops, I just exited out of that. So let's click back on here. Let's go to first label right here, and let's set the background color to black and the color text to white. And let's go to the subtitle right here and set the background color to black and the color text to, maybe let's just choose some random gray here. Okay, great. Now we can run and build that again. I want to see kind of how it's looking. So while that's building and running, we're going to need to, since we're not pulling from an API, we're going to need to go and create a static kind of struct of the different albums with the album names as well as their subtitles. And then we are going to set properties if it's an artist to have it be a circle and whatnot. Okay guys, so now this is looking pretty good. As you can see, scroll up and down. Already it's starting to look kind of like Spotify a little bit. But now there's still a few more things we need to do to get this populating with each different image individually. So we have our images now. So we now want to go into the table view cell right here. And there's going to be a few more things we need to add. So how it works is now that we have our model, we need to create an array of models. Usually, I digress a little bit. Usually you would do this through an API just because you'd want to pull the data dynamically. You wouldn't want to hard code it. But just for this tutorial, I'm showing you guys how to create the layout, not how to do some of the back-end work to it. So just keep that in mind. This is definitely not the way to do it in production. That's something I see people not saying in their videos. You definitely want to be pulling from APIs whenever you need anything dynamically or something that can change. It makes it a lot easier. So that's definitely something you guys should, if not know, definitely spend some time learning. So we want to create an instance of this array. So for we're going to call it model array. Call it model array like that, and then it's going to be a type model like that, and then it's going to be an array, so we want to put it in these square brackets, and then we want to construct an empty array of it like that right here. So then the next part here, I'm going to copy and paste just because it's a lot of code, but then I'm going to go through and explain it. It's just creating the array. So now we have the instances of each model. So let me just explain this to you guys. We're creating an instance of this class right here that we built model, where there's the image view, the album title, the subtitle, and if it's an artist or not. So right here we're saying like Young Thug, model, the image view is the name of the asset file, exactly, it's case sensitive too. The album title, I just put arbitrary data in here. I just wrote random stuff. Sorry if I got you wrong, the Young Thug album title wrong. But I just built these here, and now the next thing we're going to do, which I'm also going to stop the video and then restart it, is you need to append each one. And I'll do the same, and I'll go through and I'll explain it. Okay, so now that we have all of the instances of the model class appended. So how it works is we created this model array where we're constructing an array of the model objects. And now we're appending each one using the model array.append method in the awake from nib. And by the way, if you guys don't want to just be pausing the video to copy this code I just put in, I'll also link in the description below the source file, and you guys can go just download that. So now that we got all these appended, we are going to want to change this. Before we were just doing this statically, and now we're able to do this dynamically based on the, what would we call it? The model array dot count. So we're able to do that. And now that we have all these different things for what we want to see in the collection view cell, we can go in here and we can start adding them in. So we can do cell dot album title dot text is going to be equal to calling it model array at the index path dot row, and then we're going to come in here and do the dot album title, and then the next one we're going to do is the image. We can do the image dot image right here, so it's a UI image, and then for this one we're going to have to convert it from a string, because we have it as a string in our model and we need to convert it. So we need to do it like this, and then we're going to do named right here, and then for this part we are going to need to do model array, and then in brackets we're going to need to do the index path dot row, just like the one above, and then after we're going to do dot image view like that. And we need to do the bang operator to have it force and wrap as a string, because we're already checking it can already be optional when we first put it in. So the next one is going to be the subtitle dot text equals the model array at the index path dot row, and then dot subtitle like that. Cool. So we now have all that populating for each collection view cell. Now that we have all the content array, the model array properties being inherited by the cell, we can now click play and see how it's looking now. So there we go. See, we got the images right there. So about these other ones, yeah. All the images right here. Filling in. Now there's one more thing I wanted to add in terms of what you view. We spoke about if it's an artist, we want it to be a circle. So let's go implement that function. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create an extension, which you can think of an extension as additional code for a particular class or protocol. So extension, this is going to be an extension of UI image view right here. So with the curly brackets, and then we're going to call it func set rounded right here. And this is going to be a function that's going to make the image appear as a circle rather than a square. So let radius equal self. So you have to refer to the self of the image. The frame, which is the whole image, dot width. The width of the image, divide by 2, and then self dot layer dot corner radius. This is going to affect the corners, the corner radius of the image, and we're going to set it equal to the radius which we just created, and then self dot layer dot masks to bounds, and then this is a property we're gonna have to set equal to true. So now that we have that extension, we are then going to be able to go in and okay guys, so now that we have this extension, the next thing we need to do is check if that property of the class is true, and if it is, then we're going to call this extension of UI image view, the set rounded, to the image. So let's do if model array, and then these brackets, index path dot row dot, this one is artist, which is of type boolean, equals true. Then we are going to say the cell dot image dot, and then we need to call the set rounded property like that right there. So okay, now we let's run it, see what happens. Okay, so as you can see, it's now working, showing it, but the issue is there's this white background around it. So let's go and fix that. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's go fix that. Let's go back into our storyboard, and I think I know what it is. Let's click in here. And I think the view we added right here, we need to set the background to black also. Now let's run it again. Perfect. Okay. There we go. So here we go. You can scroll up and down too. It's just like Spotify. So that's going to conclude it for this video, guys. This was a pretty good drink, my something easy. If you guys want to see a second part to this video where I can show you kind of a little bit more about spacing, as well as how to click on potentially one of these albums and it opens up a new page with the songs and maybe a description, click the like button and drop me a comment saying that's something you guys would like to see. It's been a great pleasure making this video, and I'm also sorry if it was a little choppy. It being one of my first videos, I was kind of, I'm going to work towards making them as smooth and as great as possible, but thank you for bearing with me. And of course, as always, have a great day, and leave me a like and subscribe if you can. Thank you so much. Peace, YouTube.